Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome back to day 3 of this Safer Internet Forum 2020. And it's great to see so many of you back again. Before I say anything else, I just want to remind you that we have closed captioning on the call this morning and also sign language interpretation. You can switch the closed captioning on from the button that should be at the bottom of the screen. And there's some further information in the chat about that, or there will be in just a moment. And we'll make sure that the sign language interpretation is always visible on screen. So we've had a really interesting and stimulating couple of days so far, and it was great to hear from so many young people in our session yesterday morning. And I think that those who were there will remember some of the powerful things that they said. One thing that was really clear, I think, from the discussions that we had yesterday is that although there are some, perhaps not enough resources to support children and young people with diverse disabilities online, we definitely need to have, a greater awareness of the resources and the tools and the projects that are available. And yesterday morning, at the end of the session, we asked those who were participating to just say what they were going to do as a result of what they'd heard. And I just wanted to share some of their responses with you. One of them said, keep children and young people in mind when we develop all of our resources and try to provide methodologies and tools that make the internet an inclusive place for them as well. Someone else said that they were going to focus on improving understanding about how child helplines can make their online resources and information as accessible as possible for children with disabilities, hugely important. Consult with and listen to a diverse range of young people, including children with disabilities, and make sure that any future children's rights or internet safety projects that I'm involved with always remember diversity, inclusion, and accessibility for all children and young people. So I think, hugely positive that people have all these things to take away and try and sort of focus on moving forward. So this morning's deep dive is going to focus on online safety resource creation. And we're going to hear from 3 expert colleagues from Romania, from Belgium, and from the Netherlands. And they're going to talk about some of the resources and projects that they've been working on and developing and are involved with to support children and young people with diverse disabilities to stay safe online. And I think, the Safer Internet Forum, this year, the focus is on supporting children and young people with disabilities. But I think this brings the 2 sort of parts of that together, the online safety aspect and the inclusive and accessibility aspect as well. So we've divided the time. We're going to hear from each of these speakers in turn. Please remember that you can ask questions throughout. We've got the Q&A box. We've also got the chat facility, which I can see some of you are using already, and we'll try and pick up questions and comments after each speaker. So let's get started. I'm really delighted to welcome our first speaker, Andreea Hurezeanu, from the Romanian Safer Internet Centre, and she's going to talk about their Logopedia resource to support deaf and hearing impaired children. So without anything else from me, Andreea, the floor is yours and you're really welcome.
Hello, Carl. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here with you today. So my name is Andreea Hurezeanu, and I'm an awareness coordinator at the Romanian Safer Internet Center, coordinated in our country by Save the Children Romania. For my presentation today, just a minute to share my my screen with you and the presentation as well. I will make a brief introduction of Save the Children Romania and the Safer Internet Center program. Then I will present you Logopedia, a good practice example in positive content and supporting children with hearing disabilities. So Save the Children Romanian mission is to inspire breakthroughs in the way the world treats children and to achieve immediate and lasting change in their lives. We are part of the largest independent organization for children in the world. We save children's lives, fight for their rights, and help them reach their maximum potential through education. We are leaders in our field with a 30 years history of delivering long-term sustainable change for children. Save the Children is the 2nd largest organization in the world considering corporate income. Our programs in Romania cover 3 main areas: health, protection, and education. Through the years, we have promoted and protected children's lives, determining significant change in the socio-medical and protection programs against any form of abuse. In terms of protecting children online, Save the Children is the national coordinator of the Safer Internet Center, a unique European program that promotes internet safety for children and adolescents, parents, and teachers. We are members of the European networks in Hope and in Safe. Our work in relation to hearing impaired children started in the context of the Safer Internet Center, Safer Internet program, where a couple of years ago we organized an European summer camp that gathered youth panelists from different Safer Internet centers across Europe. During the camp, we encouraged the children's participation and innovative ideas for projects our team could implement. One year in the summer camp, we had 3 youth panelists from Portugal with hearing difficulties. They, along with other participants, proposed that we develop a small project for hearing impaired children. We took their idea, and later that year, we developed eSign, a project targeting all deaf and hearing impaired children in Romania. The experience in working with hearing impaired children has taught us that the educational process in special institutions in our country can be paradoxical at times. During classes, children are not encouraged to use sign language, even if this is the only communication channel they have available, especially for the ones who are raised in families with deaf members. So the reason this practice is not encouraged by the state system is that it can stimulate students to read lips and learn to use sounds, a process which normally facilitates a better integration into the society. At the same time, unfortunately, special educational institutions in this field face an obvious deficit of trained personnel, and ours included in the curricula on lip reading and speech therapy lessons. More specifically, primary school children receive 8 hours, the secondary 6, and in high school the students don't have any individual lessons. These hours are distributed weekly by the speech therapists, and as a class has about 5 to 8 students, a child might sometimes benefit from less than an hour of speech therapy per week. Unfortunately, the reality is that not every child will be able to understand spoken language or will be completely able to talk. Every child is different and must be assessed individually, taking into account the different factors such as socioeconomic situation, personality, and living conditions to see if there is hope for language development or not. Experienced teachers and experts working with these children confirm the hypothesis that early education of lip reading and speech considerably increases children's progress if they practice at least 3 or 4 hours a week and do consistent exercise. Similar with any other competence and skill, as the practice starts at an early age and it is more frequent, the chances of lip reading and talking are higher for children. This type of intervention is essential for the better integration of children in society. This is why the main goal of Logopedia was to increase the level of identification and use of spoken language among deaf and hearing impaired children through the use of digital applications suited to their needs. The foreseen effect was addressed towards better social integration and willingness to communicate with children and people with no impairment. The specific objectives referred to improve spoken language abilities of 300 pupils in the course of 1 year by training 50 teachers from 12 special education institutions for deaf children on speech therapy and usage of digital educational resources. Develop one new digital application for improving speech and communication in deaf children, and make it available to all hearing impaired students attending the 12 institutions in Romania. Last but not least, raise public awareness regarding the challenges and particularities of social abilities in deaf children by producing and distributing 100 copies of the best practice guide to be promoted among professionals working in special education. The main partners of our project were 12 special educational institutions for deaf and hearing impaired children, the Ministry of Education, and the school inspectorates and training centers from the counties where the project was implemented. The beneficiaries of the project included 300 deaf and hearing impaired children who attend these 12 special institutions I mentioned before. The main target group was the children with medium and severe deficiency, aged 6 to 15. The secondary target group was 50 teachers from special institutions and 300 families of the beneficiary as they received the final good practice guide and resources. In terms of implementation, we had 3 phases. We started, of course, with creating the project team. The team included a network of 50 permanent teachers from 12 institutions for hearing impaired children across the country. 3 speech therapists specialized in working with deaf children and a technical expert. In order to select the teachers, we launched an online recruiting campaign to select the 50 permanent teachers that had no training in speech therapy and that were interested to volunteer in reaching the project objectives. We were particularly interested in working with persons that are permanent staff in order to ensure a self-sustainable human resource that will benefit generations to come in the institutions, even after the Logopedia project ends. The permanent team in charge of the project consisted of a project manager, 1 training expert, a communication expert, and a project assistant. The team had already gained experience in working with children through the previous implemented eSign project I mentioned you before. Okay, so the second step of the first phase was to sign agreement with the relevant institutions. I already mentioned before our partners, the 12 special educational institutions and the Ministry of Education and the school inspectorates. Afterwards, we developed the methodology for of the trainings and of the educational activities. The training manager, together with the 3 speech therapist experts, developed the national training, organized local meetings, and designed the educational activities based on the identified needs of the children. After that, the actual training of the volunteers took place. The 50 volunteers participated in a 5-day intensive training that covered basic notions of speech therapy adapted for hearing impaired treatment, principles in working with deaf for improving their speech, and description of educational activities, objectives, and resources that they would use. The training was interactive, used non-formal educational methods, and all the sessions were strengthened through practical activities. This would both enrich the experience and create a space for constructive feedback from the trainers. The second phase of the project, we conducted a desk research on technologies, resources, and apps for hearing impaired children. The project team searched for relevant resources, online software, and applications for hearing impaired children in order to increase the quality of the activities and newly developed applications with already existing materials, both national and international. We then created a consultation group with speech therapists. In this way, we wanted to ensure that we develop resources who are useful and interactive, easy to use, attractive, and adapted to the real needs of the children. For making sure this goal was reached, we created the consultation group with speech therapists who already work daily with hearing impaired children. And basically, the project aims to create resources for their work and also train other teachers that can continue the efforts made by the local specialists. The final step of this phase was to develop the online resource, but I will tell you more about this resource in the next slide of my presentation. So the final phase of the project aimed at testing the resources we created and their impact on children's lives. A very important goal of our project was to show how technology and suitable applications can considerably improve the life of hearing impaired children. Save the Children greatly values the child participation and is eager to listen to the voice of the children in each activity or project. This is why we felt necessary to ask the children how the interactive application along with the activities impacted their lives. We designed the poster and the video invitation using sign language to launch a competition addressed to all educational institutions who were actively involved in the project. The children would have to work individually, coordinated by a teacher, to describe in a video story project how they are using the resources we created for them. The consultation group of local teachers and speech therapists had one final meeting at the end of educational activities, but before the final press event. The meeting had two objectives. Firstly, to create a public manifesto regarding the issues with hearing impaired children face both in society and in the educational system. And the second objective was to develop, alongside teachers, speech therapists, and Save the Children experts, a good practice guide aimed at people working with hearing impaired children. This was disseminated amongst all special institutions in the country, was posted online for free download, and could also serve as a document for other specialists, such as family doctors or social workers. The final press event was held in Bucharest, gathered the relevant stakeholders such as public institution representative, private sector representatives, and the press. During the event, the results of the project were presented, but also the public manifesto was launched. Also, we passed along to the participants the good practice guide we previously developed. Now, briefly, a couple of words about the main tool developed, the Logopedia platform, which made available to specialists who work with children 11 educational games, but also a guide to good practice, which includes methods and digital working tools. The aim of this platform is to stimulate and educate the identification of words, spelling, and verbalization in a fun and interactive manner for children. This will be used by the teachers trained during the project, but will also be a free of charge resource disseminated to all the special institutions for hearing impaired students in the country. Even before its public launch, it became known and of interest to teachers and specialists working with older children who, although not diagnosed with any development delay, face major difficulties in expression. To support them, the speech therapy contains 7,000 words and phrases in Romanian, 2,000 illustrations, and 645 videos. In 2 years, the Logopedia platform registered more than 2,000 accounts created for specialists, parents, and teachers. The short-term results generated for the pupils enrolled in special institutions were about increasing their interest in developing language skills and investing time in learning language and verbal means of communications. On the medium term, the goal was to generate self-awareness and trust in their abilities to communicate with non-hearing impaired populations. For the teachers, the objective were to be an incentive and welcome additional support in dealing with this issue. So as a quantifiable results, we had the agreements, the 50 teacher trainers, volunteers, one training methodology, 12 local trainings with staff in special institutions, 3 experts involved in the project, 3,000 hours in educational activity, speech therapy with children on the platform, 1 desk research report, 50 participants in the national contests and 20 participants in the consultation meeting, and of course 1 specialist good practice guide. In terms of sustainability, the project design meets the criteria for self-sustainability due to the fact that its results and outcomes are centered around digital resources that are free of charge and disseminated through the entire special education network. Moreover, the teachers trained are permanent employees that will educate generations of children to come, and their experience can be also passed on along other new colleagues. To ensure the technical support and proper usability, the platform's content was moved to Team Logo, the largest speech therapy platform in Romania, which supports speech therapy for people with language disorders. Putting this project into practice has taught us that the success of an action, activity, or project will be achieved if we rely on the cooperation with relevant experts, base our ideas on child participation, and always consider the sustainability of every measure we aim to implement. The Logopedia initiative responds to two major needs that were validated with the teachers that work directly in special education institutions for deaf children. The deficit of the speech therapy lessons and the little support that the majority of the children receive from their family in training their lip reading and speaking skills. The long-term impact can be lasting in terms of speaking competence and skill building for hearing impaired children, avoiding other frequent cognitive impairments arising from poor quality or no hearing at all. This type of psychopedagogical intervention described in the project is an essential opportunity for children with hearing disabilities to better integrate into society. Also, language is the instrument that builds up thinking process, so that an early intervention may decrease considerably the development of other cognitive impairments arising from poor quality or no hearing. So after this, Save the Children main programs will carry on the activities aimed at empowering children through safe and inclusive technological means. Therefore, the project team will be able to ensure an ongoing basis of support and further disseminate the resources via the project and other organizational means. This is pretty much what I wanted to tell you today about the Logopedia project. I want to thank you very much for your attention. I hope I managed to get you interested in our work for hearing impaired children. And if you want to further discuss about this project, please send me an email and I will be more than happy to assist you with anything you might need in relation to this particular topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was a really comprehensive sort of overview, I think, of the project. And you mentioned that you sort of child participation was a sort of cornerstone of what you did, and I was just curious because I know that a lot of Safer Internet centres will say that they consult with children and young people along the journey when they're developing, you know, a resource or a product, and quite often they end up reshaping it quite substantially because of the feedback from young people. And I just wondered what the experience was. You know, did they sort of make any sort of comments that caused you to change direction or adapt at all?
Well, the main idea was to involve children from the early stages of the process. So in the consultation group, we also had two children who participated in the meetings. So all the resources and the ideas of the project were drafted with their input in place, let's say. So they were part somehow of the team that conducted the activities. So we them along with their teachers who work with them daily helped us in drafting the ideas of the project and shaping the resources that we created for them. And sorry, I didn't think of showing you short movies they sent us, but I can provide them. Those short videos show us how they are using the resources and the platforms after we developed it, and how easily it was for them to integrate this resource in their daily lives and activities, and how helpful it was for their lip reading skills and the development of other speech therapy practices. So, yeah.
That's great. I mean, yeah, if you want to share those links, Andrea, we can definitely include that in the report because I'm sure that would be interesting. And I think that it's you know, it makes so much sense that you involved them from the beginning of the process, because I think one of the things that came out from our discussions yesterday is that it's a lot easier to do that than wait until something's created and then go back and look to see whether it's actually fit for purpose. That's great. Sorry.
That was the main idea. And another important part of this project, as I told you in the beginning, was the fact that the whole idea started children from our Safer, if you remember, Carl, our Safer Internet summer camps, and we had these three amazing children from Portugal. So the whole idea of developing resources for hearing impaired children also came from children themselves.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful story. I mean, and that is the way that it should happen. And it was amazing that you could respond in that way that you did. We've just got a couple of minutes. I was just going to look to see if there were any comments or questions from colleagues who are here. I mean, it's amazing. We've got 115 people on the call now, so it shows how important this issue is. There was one comment, and I don't know whether you're able to answer this, Andrea. It was a comment made from June at the Commission. And she said she's seen statements that deaf people whose native language is sign language, they statistically would have a lower reading age or could struggle to process lots of written information, which of course has a massive impact on how we all provide information online. And she was just asking, and this is not specifically to you, Andrea, but to anybody who's listening, if anyone, you know, is able to comment on that. Is anybody else aware of that?
I can try a sort of an answer.
Brilliant.
From my experience, it is true. So the sign language is specific to a certain country, so at least in Romania, or to a certain region. So some children in a special school institution might learn a certain sign language, while others have another one. So they might not be able to talk to each other if they are not part of the same institution. So this can happen. From my experience, this is where we started, because sign language differs from one country to another, from one region to another. So yeah, to my knowledge, this is true.
Thank you, Andrea. That's really helpful, and you can see the challenges that will bring, of course. And the other point that I'll just make is that, again, and thank you, June, for this, sort of highlighting that there's a couple of new research projects which have just been signed on digital and multilingual signing online, and there was an address that was shared, so we'll make sure that goes into the report as well. Andrea, thank you so much. That was really helpful and a great way to start off this this deep dive. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Andrea. What we'll do now, we will move straight to our second speaker, who is Ina Cornu from the Belgian Safer Internet Centre this time. And she's going to talk about an e-safety tool which was designed for children and young people with ASD, or autistic spectrum disorder. And it's a tool that was actually mentioned yesterday, the STAR project. So I'm going to pass straight across to Ina, who will talk a bit more about that. Thanks, Ina. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Carl. Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see the whole screen, or?
We're seeing it in the sort of presenter. Well, it's not full screen at the moment. Yeah, and now we're in that presenter mode, which we had in the test, but you know how to change that now, I think, don't you? So
yeah. Like this, is it okay?
That's perfect. Yeah, thanks, Ina.
So good morning, everyone. I am Ina Cornu from the Safer Belgian Internet Centre. First of all, congratulations to the Safer Internet Forum to bring so many people together online in these quite challenging times. I'm honored to present the STAR tool. Exactly, this is a tool for young people with an autism spectrum disorder. Before we'll dive into the tool, I'll briefly explain what Child Focus does. So, Child Focus is a Belgian center, a Belgian foundation for missing and sexually exploited children. And we're also the Safer Belgian Internet Center. We're a crisis center, so we are 24/7 available on our crisis line 160,000. And we get approximately 25,000 calls a year. We work on an operational level and on a preventional level. Child Focus believes that all the children have the right to grow up and develop in a world that offers every opportunity. And like Professor Laura Lundy said yesterday, every child should have the chance to benefit from the digital transformation without any discrimination. Let's dive into our STAR tool. So during the past years, we get a lot of demands from professionals who work with children with an autism spectrum disorder. So we had to adapt our tools to a more vulnerable public. And beside that, most of the existing tools, they focus on how apps increase the quality of life of children with disabilities, which is good. But few of them focus on how internet can be both safe and fun at the same time. Thanks to the InSafe network, thanks to the cross-border collaboration, we got in touch with the STAR toolkit of ChildNet UK. That's a toolkit that equip and empower educators with knowledge on how to support children, young people with special educational needs and disabilities. So we started to think about a concept and co-created a tool together with children and youngsters with autism, because you know nothing about us without us. We've listened to parents, to teachers, to caregivers, some academics, scientists, and last but not least, our web developers and designers. They got in touch with all of them so that they really knew their target group. So we've created the STAR tool for youngsters between 10 and 40 years with an autism spectrum disorder. And our second target group are the teachers in both inclusive and special educational schools. And also for caregivers in some residential settings. So last year, our STAR was born. This is the landing page of STAR. As you can see, it's very simple. The design is very simple and it's very intuitive to use. This version, this tool is free available online in a Dutch and in a French version. Teachers have to create an account which is linked to the account of the pupils, not to control them, but rather to see and look where they have to focus further on in e-safety lessons. So let's exercise your Dutch. In the left corner, the green one is about safety. It's an activity about safety. The orange one is about critical mind. The pink one is about the difference between online and offline friends. And the purple one is about respect. If you click, for example, on the green activity, it's the activity about safety. Then you see this screen. Each team has two activities. On the left side, it's an easy one, and on the right side, it's a more difficult one, but it's hidden, in fact, so the pupil cannot see which one is the most easy or the more difficult one. Just underneath the activity, you can download what we call a pedagogical sheet. It's giving the teacher some extra explanation, some extra information, some tips and tricks. So this button is not mentioned on the version of the pupils. In the corner on the left side, you can see my personal coach. So when you create an account, you can choose a coach. So at this moment, you can choose some basic avatars, but we will change them into some Fortnite skins and things that really stick to their own world. So at the beginning of each activity, Your personal coach will give some explanation of what's going to be next. Secondly, during the game, you can go back to your coach and she will explain what will happen during the activity. And after each exercise, she will give you some feedback. So she or he is really a central figure. In the safety theme, the most easy activity is to scan the profile of Candy Lolita. So some zones of her profile will enlighten and the child have to decide to who she can share the content with. And we know Facebook is already outdated for a lot of our youngsters, but as you know, things change really fast online. So we're gonna change it in the future into an Instagram or a TikTok account. We stay in the safety theme, but the more difficult part, there you get an overview of some social media. They can choose between them, and when they click on it, they get an overview of the privacy settings. They can print it, so the transferability, you know, that's really important for children with ASD, is as small as possible. We go way back to the dashboards. So let's go to another theme, the respect one. This module is about social scripts, about social contacts, which you know is challenging as well for these young people. We can see this, you can see the sexting activity on the STAR platform, and this is the theme that is played the most. It's a hot topic for all youngsters, and it's the same case for youngsters with ESD. So they get 7 pictures and they have to choose whether they can share it or not, and if yes, to who they can send it to. So in a nutshell, a quick overview of these 2 teams, but there are 2 more, so you can go and check them on this website. As I already said, we keep adapting the tool to the needs of the youngsters and the online trends, which are changing really fast. And also we have a dream to adapt the STAR tool for youngsters with an intellectual disability, but we are waiting for some fundings right now. But we are really looking forward to start with this adaptation. Some said that children with ASD are lucky that we've created this tool, but I think we just met the needs that every child must have the chance to benefit from some digital transformation and can grow up online in a safe and in a fun space. But I've already heard a lot of commitment, a lot of political commitment during the Safer Internet Forum. So I'm really hopeful that together we can build a more inclusive and safe, fun space in the next years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing the STAR tool, and I think giving everybody a really good idea and understanding about how it works. And I hope people will go and have a look to sort of see some of the activities that are there in those sort of 4 areas. We've got a question immediately, if that's okay, from Barbara. And Barbara, I'm going to try and see if this works. I'm going to allow you to talk. So hopefully you should be able to unmute and we could hear you.
Yeah, I think it should work.
It's sounding good.
Hi, yeah, it looks very interesting to me, and I was just wondering what is now the special thing about for kids with autism, and what is the difference? What would you make different? It would be for all kids. So why? What are the really crucial things for kids with autism? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Barbara. It's a very interesting question, but we mind that the transferability, what I already mentioned, is as small as possible because we know this is very important for them. We made it together with them, in fact. So we did a lot of focus groups with some children, with some teachers and their parents to make it really work for them. But I will mention this is also a very inclusive tool, so we can, or teachers can use them in inclusive classes or in classes with children who doesn't have an autism spectrum disorder. So this is really universal design, a really universal design tool.
So it is actually for all kids in reality, but designed by kids with autism, which is even better. Wow, congratulations.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you both for that. Peter, Peter Nicken, who I think is from the Netherlands, is saying, why are children with ASD more vulnerable for these online risks?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Well, they are more vulnerable than others because the social skills are less developed than with other children. So this is very important to keep in mind. So the social scripts and to scan whether things are right or wrong or on internet, that's more difficult for them.
Thanks, Ina. So that's a really helpful explanation, I think. And you mentioned at the start of the presentation about that this was a sort of cross-border collaboration and that you sort of worked with the sort of initial concept that ChildNet had created. And there's a question from Federica who says, can you kind of explain a bit more about that relationship with the STAR, toolkit from ChildNet? Does it mean that there's a similar version of the project for other markets in other languages and so on?
So the toolkit that was created by the team of Will Gardner is a toolkit for teachers, and our tool, our STAR tool, is really for the children in guidance with the teacher. But the UK toolkit is really for the teachers. So that's the difference. And yeah, you're very welcome to send your feedback and maybe we can set up some collaboration. But I think that the STAR toolkit of the UK is very useful and a very good starting point to create a tool for youngsters with special needs and disability.
That's great. And I can see that we've actually got Will from ChildNet actually on the call. He's making a comment. And Will, I've just given you permission to speak as well, because I can see that you're talking about a relaunch of an updated STAR toolkit next week. So I've given you permission to speak. I don't know whether you're able to, Will.
Yeah, can you hear me, Carl?
Yeah, brilliant. It's nice to see you.
That's brilliant. And I think what you've done with the STAR toolkit is just fantastic. And we're very proud and excited with the collaboration that we've had. And I said in my comment, how it really demonstrates the strength of the network, how we can work together and share the experiences and the resources that we're developing together. At ChildNet, we've been busy actually over a long period of time redeveloping the STAR toolkit, and we'll be launching it next Thursday on the 3rd of December, where we've taken each of the learning points for educators and then split them apart. So there are 3 different ways for the educator to teach the same teaching point, because it gives more flexibility and adaptability to the educator to use that with the children that they're working with who have a variety of different needs.
Thanks, Will. That's great, and we'll look out for the launch next week. That's really good to hear. Thanks for sharing that. There's a simple question, Ina, which I think I even know the answer to. Elizabeth from the French helpline is saying, is the toolkit available in French? And I think you said it was in French and in Dutch, so that's an easy one. That's really good. Caroline, who is with Facebook but was with ChildNet, is saying, how did you choose what to adapt from the original STAR toolkit? And did you find that the children that you were working with had different online safety needs to the children that ChildNet might have worked with? So there's a couple of bits to that, I guess. How did you decide what to adapt, and did they have different needs?
Yeah, we adapted to the Belgian reality, but I think like the platform are more or less the same, concerns from the parents and the teachers. So I think we just adapt them to the Belgian context, let's say, but all the rest, like the platforms, that's more or less the same.
Great, thank you, Ina. Peter has made another comment, and Peter, I'm going to try and see if I can unmute you as well, if you're able to speak. If not, then I can sort of read out what you said, but hopefully you might now be able to unmute.
Good morning, everybody. I'm lecturer at Windesheim University in the Netherlands, and our specialty is doing research with children with mental disabilities. So I'm very interested in all these nice examples, and especially this one also from Belgium. And so my question on Ine is, so you are planning to do something also about children with mental disabilities. So what would be the focus apart from the project you are doing already on children with autism? What would be different?
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for your question. I think we will do some new focus groups with youngsters with an intellectual disability. But one thing that we really want to change is to make the coach, on the left side, we will make the coach speak so that the children don't have to read things, so that every sentence can be spoken by the coach.
Thanks, Ina. Yeah, I picked up what you were saying as well about the coach during your presentation about sort of Fortnite skins and things like that. I think things change so quickly, don't they, in the sort of online space. And I took the point you made as well about Facebook, and perhaps people of that sort of age group, 10 to 14, they are more on the sort of Instagrams and the TikToks and so on. Is that a big challenge to sort of to adapt? Or I mean, I'm not a technical person, as anybody who knows me will know, but is it easy to sort of rebrand in that sense and use a new sort of platform as an example?
We get a lot of rights to change the tool on our own, so that's really simple and good, so that we really can shift as quick as possible, because we know that change is really fast, but that's quite challenging, and that's why we do a lot of focus groups and a lot of calls with some teachers and caregivers during the time. So we don't wait like 1 hour to organize some focus group, but we do it on a regular basis.
Now that makes sense. So it's an ongoing sort of collaboration with all of the different stakeholder groups. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like Andrea said last presentation, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah. I guess it has to be, doesn't it? Because things change all the time, and we need to sort of be on top of that. Yeah.
Absolutely, and they're the expert, not a Safer Internet Center. So. Yeah,
absolutely. We still have a few minutes if there were any other questions. I think that's been a really interesting discussion, and great to be able to hear the voices of Will and Peter and Barbara and others as well. So thank you for those comments and questions. Were there any others for Ina before we? So Niels, your colleague Niels is commenting. So a good advert for the InSafe resource competition. Yeah, and colleagues who aren't from the network, we do this twice a year, and the Safer Internet Centres across Europe are able to sort of promote a resource that they think could be shared more widely. And as you say, Niels, this is a perfect example. Because I guess, we're all working to the same ultimate objective. And if we can adapt things rather than have to recreate the wheel and start from scratch, that has to be positive. Yeah, really, really good.
And I really want to encourage the other participants over here to work together with some other safer internet centers. That's really, really rich to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Inna, and that's what we wanted to try and do, I think, with this session. We all know it's more difficult when it's a sort of online collaboration, but there is so much happening, and I would sort of urge people to go and look at the Better Internet for Kids website, and I'm sure one of my colleagues will put the link into the chat in a moment. But there's a wealth of resources, hundreds and hundreds, and you can search on all different sorts of criteria, and there is a lot of information there. Yeah, so Sarah's just put it up into the chat there. Betterinternetforkids.eu, but please do have a look, and I think we would say reach out to colleagues at the centres if you want more information as well. Brilliant. Okay, I think that Inna, thank you so much. It's great to see that stimulated such a lot of interest and debate, and hopefully people will go and have a look after this as well. But thank you very much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I'm going to pass to our last contributor for this session now, who is Lotte van Aal. I hope I've pronounced your name vaguely correctly. Similar, you did say to me that it's quite difficult to do that last bit, so apologies.
No worries.
Lotte is from the Netherlands, and she manages a program which aims to raise awareness among counsellors of people with cognitive disabilities to be able to work on media literacy with their clients. And media literacy, something that the Dutch Safer Internet Centre has always sort of excelled at and led the way with, really. So we're really looking forward to hear what you've got to say, Lotte, and the floor is yours. Thanks a lot for this.
Lovely. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for the invitation, and hello everybody this morning. I will start sharing my screen now, and I will try and not talk too fast for the interpreter. So yes, my name is Lotte van Aarle, and I work for the Media Literacy Network in the Netherlands. And today I would like to present to you about media literacy advancement for people with cognitive disabilities and the program that we have created for that. I'll tell a little bit first about who we are. Our mission is media literacy for all, and we consist of over 1,000 partners in various areas like libraries, schools, museums. Well, you can read it here. We are organized with 5 steering partners, and we have been founded in 2008 by the Ministry of Education and Culture and Science here in the Netherlands. And next to that, together with one of our steering partners, ECP, and the Expert Office on Online Child Abuse, we are also a partner of the Safer Internet Centre here in the Netherlands. As you can see, we've been around for quite some time, and we're currently in our 3rd multi-year plan. And this multi-year plan consists of 3 main program lines. And the program lines focus on children and youngsters, adults, and vulnerable people. And today I would like to talk to you a little bit about a subgroup of the program line, vulnerable people. And the subgroup that we focus on within this program line are children and young people with mild cognitive disabilities. And actually the mild should be between brackets because we also try and focus on people with maybe less mild cognitive disabilities. And our goal is to make sure that everybody with a mild cognitive disability receives adequate counseling in media literacy. And why we want to do that? Well, there is, in the Netherlands, we have 1.2 million people with a cognitive or a mild cognitive disability. And this is a very large group. And of these people, a lot of these people are overrepresented as victims and perpetrators in online crimes like cybercrime, sexting, grooming. And research has showed that they are more susceptible to fake news. Next to that, they are harder to reach because a lot of people actually don't think they have a cognitive or a mild cognitive disability. And their caretakers or counselors are not sufficiently equipped in the field of media literacy. And these are things that have actually been shown by various researchers. And why now? Well, basically what we are saying all the time is we are actually living in media. Media is not a device, it's not some hardware, it's everywhere. We are all living in media, and that goes for everybody. And media does not select on a basis of skill, whether you can use it in a safe way, or so it's very important for people with mild cognitive disabilities to have the right skills to be able to benefit also from a lot of things that media have to offer. And we can see that there are advancing techniques in the future, for instance, with games and online gambling, that will create extra challenges, especially for this group. So, our strategy. The group of people with a mild cognitive disability is very diverse, and they deal with very complex difficulties. And this makes them not homogeneous. So we cannot approach them with the same approach or tooling. And to reach them and to make an impact, it is very necessary to offer a customized approach, but that we focus on the caretakers and not really the group itself. So that is the way we want to try and make an impact. Our program, freely translated in English, it's called A Fun Online Life for All. Because like I said before, media and online media offer a lot of good things. It's not all risks and problems, it's also cooking workshops and meeting friends and having social interactions. And this is very important, especially for the group that we're talking about in this presentation. And our program consists of a number of things, which is of course a communications campaign, which is directed at the caretakers. We co-create tooling with partners, where obviously always building a network of relevant partners and supporting research. Now, considering the communications campaign, I would like to zoom in on a couple of things. I would like to tell you about several activities we have created. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but we have created a practical guide for professionals that actually work in healthcare. And it basically says online with a mild cognitive disability, and it gives them 5 tips for caretakers. And within this practical guide, there are also testimonials of people that work in healthcare, but are also certified media coaches that work with people with a mild cognitive disability and have provided us within this guide with good tips and things that they have experienced. Next to that, a couple of years ago, we launched a media literacy manifesto on our website. It maybe doesn't look like a lot of signatures on the bottom, but the logos represent very large healthcare institutions here in the Netherlands, which represent thousands of caretakers. And yeah, basically the manifesto says, yes, we want to help give people with a mild cognitive disability a nice online life. And next to that, I would like to focus for this presentation on a very special event that we have helped with for the last 2 years, which are the Special Media Awards. This is thought of by a very large healthcare facility here in the Netherlands, which is a partner of the Media Literacy Network. And they started out a couple of years ago in a very small room within one of their buildings. And since last year, we have made it a national event. And it is the National Awards for Media Creators with a Disability. We have over 10 categories: Instagram, best YouTuber, best vlogger, TikTok, the lots. And we have had over 100 submissions, and a professional jury actually viewed the submission and named winners in all the categories. Actually, all the people that were nominated received an award, but the big awards actually, of course, went to the winners. And what I would like to emphasize here is that the big awards that you see here on the pictures were made by people with a cognitive disability who live in a healthcare institution. So we try to make it as inclusive and diverse as possible. And the next edition is confirmed. This year we had to do an online event, of course, and had to give the awards upfront. But we hope maybe next year in November we can do a big event somewhere here in the Netherlands again. And so what are we going to do for the next couple of years, for the rest of our multi-year plan? We're working with a small working group of healthcare professionals who also have a media coach diploma to create a manual for caretakers. Basically, it's a how to start working on media literacy within my healthcare facilities. One of our partners tells us that she gets a lot of calls from healthcare facilities, and they ask her, how I know I have to do something about this, but where do I start? There are a lot of tools, there is research, but what we want to do with a group of other healthcare professionals is to create this manual and basically make it with people from within the working environment of these healthcare facilities. Next to that, we're trying to raise funds for a digital platform. As I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of information, there is a lot of research being done, there is a lot of tooling, and it's on the internet, but we want to try and bring it together within one digital platform. And of course, we're going to try to tie more big strategic partners to our cause to really make an impact for the next coming years. So that's basically what I wanted to tell you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Lotte. There's such a lot of information there, and I hope we're going to get lots of comments and questions. I particularly just find the Special Media Awards just absolutely brilliant. And I mean, and you were saying about, you know, it was, you know, sort of quite a local event and then national. And I'm kind of thinking, wow, you know, maybe in the future it could be an international event.
Well, basically, the last edition was a couple of weeks ago. And what I said, it was an online event, and a couple of the professionals that work together said, no, can we not put this on national television, you know, make it a big event? But then the professionals that we work with, they also keep in mind what works for the people that we're actually doing it for. You know, do they benefit from a very big event with fireworks and lots of music and you know, because what you see with the things that we do, and we work with focus groups when we co-create tooling with our partners, usually you get the same clients that are already very active in online media, and we want to try and reach across them and see if we can reach that big group that's also there but has cold feet about, you know, working in a focus group or in a brainstorm. But that's why we work with these caretakers themselves and try and make an impact through them.
Yeah, and I mean, that I can see that makes an awful lot of sense. I mean, do you get any sort of feedback, Lotte, from, you know, the young people who've, you know, received some of this? Do you sort of get a feel as to whether they feel it's useful or?
That's a good question. I would have to ask that that question to the professionals that I work with. But if I can go back to the Special Media Awards, we actually had over 280 viewers on YouTube. But that doesn't sound like a lot, but I know that a lot of groups that live in a healthcare facility actually logged in with one account. So there were very big groups in large rooms watching, and they love it. For them, it's like they really are on TV, and they are winners. And well, if you actually watched it, you need a tissue, because it's wonderful, and they're so happy. Yeah, and so that's feedback that we get.
I was going to say that's a success story in itself, isn't it? Absolutely. Yeah.
And I forgot to mention one other thing. Actually, I'm sorry, I forgot to click on one of the dots with the co-creation of the tooling. Last year, we created with another partner of ours a website which it tries to motivate parents with low literacy skills to talk with their children about media use. And it's made in, I hate the word, but it's easy language, if I can say it in that manner. And it's also available in English, French, Arabic, and Turkish. So later on, maybe it's good to share the link. And it just gives very simple tools and simple instructions of how they can go into dialogue with their child.
That's great, and please do share that, because I think that will be massively useful. Yeah, and interesting.
Sorry, I forgot about that one.
No, crikey, it's fine, Lotte, it's absolutely fine. Barbara is saying, how important is easy language?
Very, I'd say. Well, what shows here in the Netherlands, I'm not a researcher, but what I have been reading is that also people who are highly educated are struggling with language. So it's very, very important to think about the language that you use when you want to try and get something across. So that's basically important for everybody, I'd say. I'm just going to share the link of the website that's also in English.
Oh, that's great.
French, Turkish. Yes, sorry.
No, not at all. I think that's brilliant. There's clearly people in the chat who are quite keen to see that. So that's absolutely great. Yeah.
There it is.
Brilliant. Yeah, so colleagues, that link is in the chat now, so please do have a look, and you can access in those different languages.
Exactly. Yes, and another partner of ours actually created a blended board game, which is called Media Jungle. And blended, they mean it's a board game, but you also need an iPad. And it is especially created for young people with a mild cognitive disability, which is, when you think about it, I think it's like 16, 17 years of age. They are the hardest to reach, especially when they think they don't have a cognitive disability. And it stimulates the dialogue between caretakers, counselors, and the clients about media use. And you have a board game, you have like a little puppet that you can move on the board game, and the questions are being asked by the iPad. And it's a large success. We actually supported it with a financial subsidy a couple of years ago. We were not the only one, but it's and I actually saw a post on LinkedIn yesterday of the creator that it's now also available in shops. And the best thing about it is it is created with focus groups. So with people with cognitive disabilities, and based on research being done by students amongst people with cognitive disabilities. And that's basically, I think, the reason why it's such a big success. I see, what's the name of the game? The name is Media Jungle. I'm not quite sure if it's available in different languages, but there you go.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I really like that idea of sort of blended as well. I think one of the things that came out really strongly in the discussions we had yesterday is that, digital's great, but actually, just digital probably isn't great. We need to have a bit of a mixture of both. So that's
yes.
Interesting.
Yes, and apparently it works really well, because it's a very big success, especially within the group that it is created for. So that's really lovely to see. Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably getting lots of hits on their website as we speak, I'm sure. So
Maybe I'm going to get a ring in a minute. What's happening? Yeah.
No, but that's great. I think I was also interested, Lotte. I know when we spoke, when we were sort of talking about the session months ago now, I think the way that I sort of found you was through that media literacy manifesto initially, and did that? I think things like that are great in terms of raising awareness, and I just wondered whether you had a notion of how successful it was. I know you said that there might not have been many, but some of the organisations had huge sort of numbers and so on.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one, because I'm not quite sure how many people actually work within those facilities. What I think has been good, there's actually one healthcare institution that was so enamored by the manifesto that they actually created little video testimonials of their clients and actually the people that work within the healthcare facilities, and said, and you see people on video saying, I really want a fun online life for everybody, especially for our clients. And they posted videos all over the place. So, even though it's only within that one healthcare facility, the clients and the workers actually supported that manifesto, which I think is a great thing. And then we just hope it creates like what we call the oil stain, and it just, goes through. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what it's about, isn't it? Getting people to, have some understanding and start thinking perhaps about this type of thing as well. Yeah. Oh, that's great. We've got a comment from Libor talking about a sort of resource in the Czech Republic. And I don't know, Libor, I've given you permission to talk. I don't know whether you, rather than me try and sort of read everything out, it might just be easier if you were able to unmute. I don't know whether you're able to. And I will have a go. If you...
Hello.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Hello. Just following to what has been said by Lotte. I just reminded this is just to inform you that we also have something interesting back in the Czech Republic. It's a modern game. It's application called Tablexia. It's an application. It's an application to support development of cognitive skills.
Mm-hmm.
Is primarily intended for children with dyslexia in the second stage of primary schools. It can be used elsewhere else. And currently it consists of 10 games, each of which focus on training one selected cognitive ability. As it is already written in the comment, the player here acts as a young detective who, under the supervision of his senior colleague, just trains the skills needed for this demanding profession. And the game itself is downloadable for free from Google Play App Store, or from the link that I sent or I shared with you in the comments. So this is just to inform you that there is also some interesting application that shall help or aim to help with children with dyslexia and to teach them in some funny way as well. So that's all from me for now. And just, please see the link and, download it, use it. And if you have any question, I can pass it to my colleagues responsible for development of this application. That's all for me for now. And I'm passing back to Carl. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Libor. That's great, and I think that is one of the things that we want to try and do here. Because there's such a lot of content out there, so many resources. But if we're not aware of them, then we can't use them. So that's great. And Barbara's actually just said if you're able to put the link again, that would be really helpful. It is just a little bit further up in the chat, I think. Are there any other comments or questions for Lotte, but equally, I guess, for Andrea and for Inna as well? We still have a few minutes if there are other things that people want to share, or if there are things that they would like to ask. I have another question if nobody does. Lotte, so sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I think what you said at the beginning about it was very clearly evidence-based. I think that's always so important with all of these things. But I think you said that that particular group were overrepresented as both victims and perpetrators in sort of different sort of online crimes. And I just wonder whether there was any did the research talk about why that might be? Were they able to sort of give any reasons as to why this group was sort of, disproportionately represented, perhaps?
That is a very good question, although I'm not a researcher and I don't have the research here with me. I don't know, maybe Peter Nicke can comment on that. I don't know if he's still here.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's still in the back end here. Let me see if he's still in the
we work with him a lot as well.
I think he might have had to go because I'm not finding him. I'm searching. No worries, no worries. But I wonder whether there's anybody else there. I wonder if there's anybody else who perhaps knows, because I think that's really quite fascinating. Because I mean, if that is the case, it's so right that we should be doing something to address this sort of thing. And like the program that you've got in place is hopefully doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard a couple of things, but I'm not comfortable with presenting myself as the person that knows a lot about this research, because I'm afraid I'll say something that is just not true. So
no, I understand. I'm really not meaning to put you on the spot, Lotte, as well.
No, I understand. No,
I just no, not at all. I just think it's interesting, and yeah. I mean, the other thing that I was curious about, you mentioned focusing on the caretakers and not actually on the group specifically.
No.
And you also said that quite a lot of the caretakers have sort of low skills in terms of media literacy.
Well, or shyness about it.
Right. So is that like a lacking in confidence, perhaps feeling
also,
that they're not? Yeah.
Yeah, that also, but also maybe lacking a bit of skills, because it's well, the education does not consist of yet getting advanced media literacy skills. It's about taking care of these people. And what we are also trying to do, and which we are trying to establish maybe for the end of 2023, I'm not quite sure, is also to talk with education facilities to say, if you provide a healthcare course or education, also do something about media literacy, because it's, like I said, it's everywhere. It's not, we're online all the time, everybody, the caretakers and the clients. So we cannot see it as a different thing. You have to do something with it. And it's not a part of their education yet. It's sometimes it's a minor, it's something they can choose to follow it. But it would be nice if it actually is a consistent part of their education. So basically the way they can help their clients is with the skills that they have gathered themselves, and which might not always be enough. Because these kids, they're way far advanced from, I'm 45, they're better at it than me, but they still need help. And it also, it needs to be repetitive. 100 times is not enough. You have to explain it to them again and again and again and again. And which is no different from teaching them how to get up in the morning and take a shower and go to work, and why that is necessary. So it should be, it's a normal part of life, and that's what we were going to try and achieve. Yeah.
Thank you, Lotte.
Right.
Got a comment from Michael Bush from the European Commission in the chat. So it's just to make people aware. So the easy reading software tool, which is supported under the Horizon 2020 program from the EU. So that sort of helps people with cognitive disabilities to better read and understand and use all web pages. And he says that the objective is to make web pages more accessible for everyone. It allows people to adjust the layout and the structure of web pages, and it explains the web content with symbols and pictures and videos, and can translate content into a different language level. So plain language, easy to read, or symbol writing systems. And it's easyreading.eu. So I think that's massively helpful to have shared that, Michael. Thank you. Hopefully people can go and have a look at that and make use of it as well. It's clear that a lot is happening. I think, you know, it's just raising awareness of the different functionalities that are available and then using them. So somebody on one of the calls yesterday said, I'm going to go away now and I'm going to put subtitles on all of the videos that we have on our website. And I just thought that's such a simple thing. I mean, I'm not suggesting it's simple to do, but you know, it's a small tweak that can make a massive difference. And I think that's where we have to start. We have to start small and then, you know, see what is possible, really.
Exactly.
So, colleagues, we're a few minutes ahead of time, which is great because you can go for coffee early, I guess. Unless there are any other questions or comments that anybody has, I'd just like on your behalf to say a huge thank you to Lotte, to Ina, and to Andrea for sharing, you know, these really interesting and I think really innovative projects that they're working on. As I say, we'll capture all of the information and the links and, you know, various information in the report, which will come out afterwards. But a huge thank you to them. Thank you to you for all of your comments and participation. I think it's been really helpful. I think it's been a really interesting debate. Hopefully it's just the start of a conversation that we will carry on. And also just to say, we're still not finished with the Safer Internet Forum for 2020. We have another deep dive this afternoon. It starts at 2 o'clock Central European time, and it is going to focus on inclusive education. So I really hope that lots of you will be able to join us for that. But unless there are any other comments or questions, then thank you so much for your participation this morning, and thanks again to the speakers, and we'll see you in a few hours. Thanks, everybody.